A new West Virginia obscenity bill could potentially jail people for transgender exposure to minors, which, as it's written, just basically being transgender near minors.
Senate Bill 252 and Senate Bill 278 were released almost at the same time earlier last week, or they were introduced at the same time last week. In both of those bills, it is addressing matters of obscene definition. And in the first one, there was a lot of focus on schools and the association with being on school property, and people were saying, "Oh, well, this only applies to schools." In the second one, though, it becomes a little clearer that what 278 is referencing and what 252 is also tied with is a portion of the West Virginia Code, Section 61A8-1. It is the definitions of obscene matter to minors. So I'm going to put the text of this in the chat. So if anybody wants to look this up, you are more than welcome to. This is the code, the section of the Code of West Virginia that is being edited to read this. For the purposes of any prohibition, protection, or requirement under any and all articles and sections of the Code of West Virginia protecting children from exposure to indecent displays of a sexually explicit nature, such prohibited displays shall include, but not be limited to, any transvestite and or transgender exposure, performances, or display to any minor. Now, this is directly within the definitions of what obscene matter is described as. Obscene matter is already described as any type of material that appeals to the prurient interests, anything that is patently offensive, sexually explicit conduct, lacks serious literary, artistic, political, or scientific value. Now, those three right there have been categorically defined as obscene material definitions. But what West Virginia has now done is they're adding this line that says it shall include, but not be limited to, transvestite and or transgender exposure, performance, or display to any minor. What we're worried about is what exposure or display mean. Because of the words that are defined, those two words are not clearly defined, nor is it set out what those words mean. But from the broadest understanding of this, since this is it's put within the section of the code that deals with obscene matter, in the same way that pornography, whether it be printed or video or sexual explicit activity in a club, along those lines, what this is saying is that any effort of a transgender person to expose themselves or display themselves to a minor. And I'm not talking about in a nudity form, because that is what is stated here. It says that any transgender exposure. So what I've been reading to you is section 618A-1. In section 618A-2, under the penalties for exposing minors to obscene matter, any adult, and this is A under section 618A-2, any adult with knowledge of the character of the matter who knowingly and intentionally distributes, offers to distribute, or displays to a minor any obscene matter is guilty of a felony, and upon conviction thereof shall be fined not more than $25,000 or confined in a state correctional facility for not more than 5 years, or both. So what this is saying, it looks like in the original bills that it would be a just a misdemeanor the first time, a misdemeanor the second time, and a felony the third time. But what this does is that it goes one step further. If anyone tries to argue that a transgender person is approaching a child, they would be guilty of knowledge of the character of the matter. They knew that they were a transgender person and intentionally distributing and displaying to a minor any obscene matter. Remember, the definition of obscene matter would be changed in section 61A2-1 so that obscene matter includes any transgender exposure.